Hello, this is Lewis with GE University. I want to spend a little bit of time talking about communication and building rapport. Too often in life, we come home from work, we visit with customers, and I know we don't really mean to, but we are telling everybody every day that I don't care, that what's important to you is not what's important to me. We'll come home from work and we'll ask our kids, so how was school today? And they'll say, oh, it was fine, or wow, I had a long day. And instantly I'm on to some different subject, asking them other questions, well, that's great. Glad to hear. Did you get your homework done? Have you finished the chores? If it's a customer, I might say, so how was your day today? And they say, oh, fine. And I move on to something different. What we are doing, what we've really educated ourselves from the time we're little and educated our children and the people that we work with and that we love, is that if I ask you a question, specifically an open-ended question, that I really don't care what the answer is. All I really care about is listening for an opportunity for me to talk about what's important to myself. And so instead of listening for the sake of learning, I'm really listening to respond. And it's a subtle difference, but if I'm listening to learn and I'm really truly curious about you, curious about how your day has been, what's going on with you, what excites you, what motivates you, if I'm truly genuinely concerned about you as an individual, then I'm listening to learn about you. And the subtle difference is that if as you're talking, I'm listening for what my response is going to be, then yes, I'm still responding and we're having a conversation. But the moment you mention something that brings to mind something that's happened to me in the past or an experience, what do you think I'm thinking about? I'm no longer thinking about what you are saying, about what's important to you. I'm just thinking about what's important to me. And the witty response that I could make, the reply or the story that I could share that's so much better than the story that you just shared, because of course my work experience and my children are so far superior to yours. So I know that's not really what we're trying to say, but we do it every day, all the time. And so there's a simple little rule that I've come up with that it's common sense. The people that are good at communicating will often just do it naturally. But it's called the 3 deep rule. So it's pretty simple to remember, 3 deep. And what you do in order to practice the 3 deep rule is that whenever I ask an open-ended question, who, what, why, when, where, how. So those are the open-ended questions. Who, what, why, when, where, how. So whenever I ask an open-ended question, that I have to follow up with 3 more questions before I change the subject. And the 3 questions that I could ask, they could be other open-ended questions, which again, what are the open-ended questions? Who, what, why, when, where, how. So I could ask another open-ended question, or I could ask a closed-ended question. A closed-ended question requires the person to say yes or no. Now, if I'm visiting with a friend or a family member, my spouse or customer, that I'm truly just trying to build some rapport and understand what it is that they're saying and to listen to learn, then when I ask a closed-ended question, it doesn't matter if they say yes or no. Because for me to ask the closed-ended question, it means that I'm paying attention. So, for instance, if I say, so, how was your day today? And my 12-year-old says, oh, it was a long day today. I said, really? It was a long day today. So what went on today that was such a long day, made it such a long day? He says, well, I when I went to school, it turns out that I forgot my gym shorts and I ended up having to go visit with the teacher and they gave me some terrible pair of shorts. And oh my gosh, that must have been embarrassing. So I assume then, did you get everything straightened out? So did you get everything straightened out? That's a what? That's a closed-ended question. He's going to either say yes or he's going to say no. But the fact that I asked, did you get everything straightened out, then that means that I'm paying attention. Now, another thing that I could ask is an either-or question. That's another type of question. So the 3 types of questions are open-ended, who, what, why, when, where, how, closed-ended, such that the person says yes or no, or I can ask an either-or question. If I ask an either-or question, just in regular communication, friends, family members, it's a clarifying question. Again, it tells you that I'm paying attention. So if I ask an either-or question, something along the lines of, sticking with the example of my son, so when you say you had a really long day today, was it long as in it just lasted forever? Or was it more along the lines of you had a rough day, something bad happened today? And then if my son were to reply, well, no, I guess it really wasn't bad. I mean, I just forgot my lunch money. I ended up having a bum lunch off of my friends, and it just seemed like one thing after the other. And I could say, wow, so when you bummed your lunch off of your friends, were you able to at least get enough so that you filled up and you weren't hungry later on in the day? So see, now that was a closed-ended question, because either they did get enough for lunch or they didn't. So here's the thing. We don't really need to make a meal out of how to ask the questions, when to ask the questions. I think the primary, most important piece of the 3 Deep rule is that when I ask an open-ended question, who, what, why, when, where, how, that I don't change the subject. That I continue expressing interest in my spouse and my kids and my customer, and I ask them 3 additional questions before I change the subject. And again, the 3 additional questions can be open-ended, who, what, why, when, where, how. It can be an either-or question. Either-or question, again, is great for clarifying. It allows me to make sure that we're both on the same page and I'm understanding. And then once they tell me whatever it is, then I can follow up with another question along that line of thinking. And you'll find that if you start living this way and you get in a habit of following the 3 Deep rule, it's amazing the different conversations you can have. The other day I went to a gas station, and I'm down in Portland, Oregon, and of course, being from Washington State, I totally forgot for a moment that you're supposed to let them pump your fuel. So I hop out of my car and I go over there, and I'm busy. I already swiped my card and I'm busy gassing up my vehicle, and the person that fills up your car, he comes running over there, for sake of a better word, I mean the attendant, comes running over there and goes, oh, sir. So, I'm supposed to fill up your vehicle. I'm sorry about that. And so I chatted with him. I was like, hey, so how's your day going? And he goes, oh, it's kind of a long day. And before I knew it, I wasn't even paying attention. It's a habit. I began asking him more questions about his day, and I found out what was going on in his life, and that things were a little bit tough, and the character as a whole was a little bit rough. Maybe not exactly the kind of guy I would normally be hanging out with, but still expressed interest in him. And at the end, he kind of was a little taken aback. And this was maybe a 1-minute conversation. He said, gosh, normally people don't care. I haven't had anybody ask me and then really be interested in my day. So we visited for a little bit longer, and I shared with this individual the magic of the 3 Deep rule. I told him, I says, hey, so here's all you got to do to be able to have friends that are interested in you, and you in turn interested in them, have bosses and coworkers that you get along well with. I said, just do what I did with you, and here's what I did. I asked you a question, an open-ended question, and because I asked you a question, I just made sure that before I changed the subject, that I asked you 3 more questions. And his face lit up, and he said, wait a minute, let me make sure I understand this correctly. So all you just did there was you just made sure that before we changed the subject that you were going to ask me 3 more questions about myself and whatever we were talking about. I said, you got it. You got the 3 Deep rule. And he said, I'm going to try it. I'm totally going to do this. I am hoping at some point that I run into the guy again. So anyways, that wraps up today, the 3 Deep rule. And here's the challenge. So now that you know about the 3 Deep rule, the challenge is that you try 1 week of not asking an open-ended question without being willing to follow up and ask 3 more questions. Don't come home from work and ask your wife, so how was your day? Don't go approach the customer that's sitting in the waiting lounge or wherever and say, hey, so how's your day going? Unless you're willing to follow up and ask some additional questions and to be curious. Be curious about the people that are around you and listen to learn, not listen to respond.